Morse Media presents a Girlfriend's Guide to Life podcast that will help you live the life you've been given. Join in the conversation. Hi, Queens and Kings. Welcome to a Girlfriend's Guide to Life podcast. I'm your host, Miesha Shanell. Welcome, wow! Season 3, guys. We are back. I told you we were coming back. We are, and today I brought an amazing guest. I brought Mr. Clyde Terry in, who is an expert in transforming the lives of men and women around the world. And today, I brought him in to help me transform my love life. We are talking about the power of intention, the love edition. Ladies and gentlemen, help me welcome Mr. Clyde Terry to A Girlfriend's Guide to Life. Hi, Mr. Terry.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming. So, during the hiatus, I had time to reflect, reevaluate the purpose for the show, and I realized that I'm being charged. I'm being charged to deliver transformational messages that's going to enlighten the world, and I had to come back with some power.
Right.
So I brought you in, and I just want us to have a good old heart-to-heart conversation. Talk to me as we would talk on our 4-hour conversations.
Right.
But I want before we get started in transforming my love life, I want the world to know who you are. To tell us a little bit about Mr. Terry. Who are you?
But let me say this first. We're not going to transform your love life. We're transforming your life.
Okay.
Your love life is inside of that.
That's true.
Right.
Yes.
So
Okay.
everywhere you go, you are.
Yeah.
Right. So who am I? I'm a lot of things. But if we go by titles, I'm a former Marine, retired sheriff. I'm the CEO and founder of a nonprofit called Emerging Leaders, where I work with people coming out of prison, people who want to break away from gangs, and I work with people who are dealing with addiction. And how I got there was I was working in Compton, 2007. I just come back from Iraq, and a young kid was killed. And he was 7 years old, and he was my son's age. And I looked at, wow, here it is, 2007. We got 19,000 people in custody. I came on in 1991. We had 2,000 people in custody. So whatever we're doing isn't working. So we have to do something else. And I realized that I couldn't complain about something if I wasn't willing to do something about it. Right. So my job was my job, but doing something that was going to make a difference. And I was like, my son is this age. My son could get killed. So if I want him to be safe, I need to put myself in a position where I can do something that's going to make a difference. I had no idea what that was going to be. Anything you say with intention or with emotion. So when you talk about manifesting something, it's spiritual, mental, emotional, physical universe, right? Mm-hmm. And so I was so in alignment with that emotionally at that time that it manifested like in a couple of months. And,
what manifested?
Me doing whatever I was going to do to make a difference in our community with our people, with young people. And so I started off working with a Better LA, P. Carroll's organization, working with gang interventionists. And then that thing led to me creating my own thing. But what I started looking at is like, how can I only have these groups of people for a short period of time? So how can I get into their minds for them to see that they are more than what they think they are? Mm-hmm. So I thought hypnotherapy would be the way, but then, for Black folks, there's like, nah.
We scared of that. You're like, you're taking me under?
Yeah. So I started looking at other ways of how to tap in, because we're in hypnosis anyway, all the time. But telling somebody you're going to put them in hypnosis as opposed to them already being in hypnosis, that's a great conversation to have. People can understand that conversation. So I started looking at what are more effective ways. And so I just began to study. But one of the things that I realized now in my study was that I was doing that more to help myself than to help them. People. Right? Mm-hmm. Because I had, 1983, I went to India. I was supposed to go to Beirut. Mm-hmm. My roommate went to, my classmate went to Beirut. He bumped me and went to Beirut. So I was supposed to be there. And the embassy was blown up and he was killed in Beirut. Mm. So I lived with that. And it happened on my mother's birthday. So every April 18th, I relive that, right? And so But in that time, it's like I'm 18 years old. I'm like, and you just do what you're a Marine and you just do what you do. Like we
Mm.
handle that. And then when I was in India, they shot a missile at our embassy, and they made me stand outside with it
With the
until
missile?
with the missile until the bomb squad came. And in my mind, I kept seeing this thing blow up in my
In your
mind
head.
over and over. And so I still lived that.
Wow.
And then, I had a friend killed in El Salvador. And then, we evacuated the embassy in Bogota, Colombia, when all of the stuff was going on during the Reagan years. And so I had all that stuff. All that stuff it's there, right? It's all there. It's all buried. And so COVID came, and I realized that all that stuff was there because I had nothing but
Nothing
time.
but
I had
time
time
to
on my
think and
yeah to
feel.
think, and so I say all that to say that I didn't realize that I was working on me. I was doing all the things I was doing, developing these principles and methodologies because it's really working on me,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so that's what's coming out of COVID. It's helped me be more powerful in what I do because I realized that I was working on me,
Mm-hmm.
and so instead of like trying to work on you to work on me, I actually got to work on
Work on
me,
yourself.
right? So, um, and so just able to step into conversations that where it required vulnerability, it required um, transparency, it required authenticity, right? So I'm not a prisoner to any of my life,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Right.
Before I was a prisoner to my life, like I didn't let like, oh no, I'm not, I'm okay. But I didn't realize that I wasn't okay because I was always living on the edge. I went from the Marines to law enforcement, and then I worked gangs, and I worked, Watts, I worked Compton, then I worked undercover, and then, I chased terrorists. Then I went to Iraq and trained the Iraqi police, and then so I had all this stuff going on, and then I started working with gangsters coming out of prison. I was always on the edge, so I never had time to really deal with my
Your own stuff.
personal life. Right, I stayed in risky situations, so I wouldn't have to deal with my
Your
life.
own stuff.
Yeah,
Question. So how did you stay inspired to continue to do the work for yourself and for the people when you had all this stuff on you? Because when you have stuff on you, it's hard to be creative, it's hard to or difficult to be inspirational. So what was it in you, or what was it that you had that allowed you to still can maintain creativity and inspiration?
I would like to tell you like I knew, but I didn't. I was inspired because of the impact that I was having on the lives of other people. Um, and that's what my commitment was. So
Okay.
when you create a way of being for yourself for something, then that begins to think that's the thing that drives you,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so my life, I understand that my life doesn't belong to me; it belongs to humanity.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Yep.
I wake up every day like, how can I make a difference in humanity? How can I leave people better off than I got them? Whether it's one person or whether it's 100 people,
Mm.
I never know what that's going to look like, right? But first, I got to make a difference with me. And so
Yes.
now, in understanding that and dealing with my own life, I start seeing where can I make a difference in my life so I can make a difference in other people's lives,
Right.
right?
So I remember you mentioned um that you continue to continue to inspire because the 7-year-old boy,
Hmm.
um, he reminded you of your son, and that gave you the ammunition to go out and create the Emerging Leaders Program.
Hmm.
Tell us a little bit about what is Emerging Leaders
Emerging leaders.
Academy, Emerging Leader Academy.
So emerging leaders so it's um, so our it's a circle with a triangle. So emerging leaders is to emerge, to come from like the phoenix raising from the ashes. So it's like to emerge, um, um, and then so we're always emerging, right? We're always transforming. So it's to emerge, to rise up from, and then to lead, guide, direct, or influence other
Okay.
people, right? So we can't give anybody anything. God can't. We came loaded and coated with everything. So our conversation isn't to give them anything; it's to remind them of who they are. They forgot who they are, right?
Birthrights. Mm-hmm.
And then our program sits on um, empowerment, leadership, and integrity, right? So so it's empowering people to see their greatness, that they're leading, guiding, and directing people to greatness, but it all sits on integrity,
Okay.
right? Because if you don't have integrity, then it's not going to work. And so I stay inspired because that's what I'm committed to. That if I can stop, you know, a mother or father from being addicted to drugs so that they can be at home raising their kids, so the system or the streets aren't raising the kids. If I can inspire a um, a person to see the best in themselves and stop going back to prison, then I've done my job. And
So who's the demographic of the people joining the emerging leaders?
one,
Tell the audience who is the student.
um, it's anybody and everybody. So I started off, honestly, I started off wanting to make a difference in the community to look like me,
Okay.
right? Um, Little did I know that my work, my commitment to humanity wasn't, it's just
Color.
not black people, it had no color. And so I work with Aryan Brotherhood, I work with neo-Nazis, I work with Mexican Mafia, of course, Bloods, Crips. And then what happened is family members began to have, like, man, if you did that with them, like, can I come and sit in your class? And I would always encourage and bring people that are going to be in your family, that are in your atmosphere,
Circle.
your circle, so that you're speaking the same language. And so family members started coming who started telling cousins and aunties, and so I might have a class that's half offenders and the other half is family members,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
I've had mothers, fathers, and sons. Like the mothers had brought their sons, and the mother sat in the class and was like, "Damn, I should be here," and then told the father, so the whole family's in the
Okay.
class. So I've had a little of all that, and
Okay.
um, so it's open to anybody, really.
You mentioned, and I thought that during our conversation, our research time, you mentioned that 5,000 people were reached, 5,000 prisoners, parolees
Mhm.
were reached. But tell us the amount that had given their number back. Like,
Right.
break that down to
So
the people.
so
That was
so we've
pretty
had 5,000 people go through the program. Not all of them are, of course,
criminals or
criminals because they or had were criminals or did some time. Um, but 38, we had 38 over 3,800 people give back their number to either probation, federal probation, their parole number back to the state of California, or their probation number.
that's
Right.
amazing. That
Um,
is absolutely amazing.
Thank you.
Congratulations for that.
But I honestly, I'm gonna say
Mhm.
we didn't do it. They did it,
They did it. They
right?
did the work.
Because all the people, there were over 5,000 people sitting in those rooms over the last 13 years, right? And so if it was me, right, then everybody would have been transformed.
Mhm.
But we didn't do it. We just had conversations with people for them to find the greatness in themselves, and they did it.
They did it. So tell us about this course that you're coming up. So a little bit of background. So I am a student of yours. I am a student. I consider you my performance coach. And we have a course coming up. Talk about the new course and how could someone, if they're interested in joining, be a part of it.
Okay, let me kind of. So one, you're not my student from Emerging Leaders.
No,
You're
right. I'm a
um,
new student.
yeah, we have
It's an upcoming course.
we have a program called. So what I begin to realize is that there was a need in our community, and personal development is not a normal conversation in our community. It's either church or, and then people that want to be coaches because they think they get it because a man some good advice. Now they're a coach, right? My thing is not giving you advice. My thing is to have you ask questions so you can be on a journey of exploration so you can figure out what you need, right?
Yes.
And so it started off as a book club, did a couple books, and because a friend of mine sent me some things like, hey, you should join this Facebook group. But I saw in the Facebook groups that people were bashing, like men were bashing black men were bashing black women. I was like, how are y'all supposed to meet and connect with people if this is your conversation, right? So it was all negative. So I did a thing called Calling in the One, and
Okay.
I saw the book, and I was like, okay, cool. And then when I was in this group, I was like, oh, let me reach out to my people. So then I just posted in a group, and then I ended up having people from the East Coast, from the West Coast, from all over, join in on in the. And then they were like, "Can you run that back? Can you run it back?" So I ran it back 3 times, and then I was like, "Well, we need to." And one of the people said, "Well, you got so much. Why don't you do something else?" And so then we created um, living in my excellence. But then we realized that then we created Journey to Excellence, which we realized Journey to Excellence should become before living in my excellence,
Excellent.
because it's a journey, and then when you get there, then it's living in it, right?
Yes.
And so Journey to Excellence was created, and it looks at, you know, how do we operate in the marketplace? How do we operate in the world? The whole world is a marketplace, and we're transactional beings. We're always transacting. So how are we transacting in the marketplace,
Mm-hmm.
right? Are we operating from a place of despair? Are we operating from a place of naivete? Are we operating from a place of ambition or adulthood, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we think because we're adults and I take care of my house, I pay my bills, that's adulthood. No,
Mm-hmm.
and you could still be in despair or naivete, hoping that it's all going to work out, right?
Mm-hmm.
As opposed to setting the conditions to have your life work
Mm-hmm.
the way you want it to work,
Mm-hmm.
right? So we're operating in maybe an ambition when it comes to our finances, but we don't operate in adulthood when it comes to having our life work,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so we get to look at that. Then you get to look at what specifically do you want. So when we talked about relationships for you, it's when you start to say, well, what do I want? And then for what purpose do I want it? Then people are like, oh shit, like why do I want a relationship? Right?
Right.
Other than it's the norm, other than what people say,
Companionship and
yeah, yeah, people say, oh, well, I don't want to be alone. I don't want to be this, but then you have to look at why do I not want to be alone? What is that about? Right?
yeah, we did that.
And so when you really get for anything, like I want to make $1 million. For what purpose do you want to make $1 million? There has to be something that's driving that'll inspire you to get up every day to do it. Because if not, when you get it, then you'll stop working,
Yeah.
right? That's what I was saying to you. Relationships is so the relationship is more important than the two people in it. Because if the relationship is that important to you, you'll be inspired to be in it every day, as opposed to the person. Because the people will piss you off all the time. You'd be like, I don't want nothing to do with you right now. I'm gonna go to my corner. You go to your corner. As a
Story of
matter of
my
fact, I
life.
don't need to see you ever again, right? But when the relationship is bigger, like there's days where I'm like I'm retired, like I could be traveling the world right now, right?
Mhm.
But
You should be.
I should be, right? I do, right? I've been to 46 countries, um,
Dang.
but I would be living around the world. I'd just be like a nomad right now. But my calling is bigger than that. So what I did create when we did a beta test for living in my excellence, I created that I wanted to be able to take this message around the world. And after doing that, I got an opportunity to speak at the House of Lords in
Mm.
London. I
Wow.
just got called by two consulting groups they got their licensing from like one of the top transformational companies in the world. Um, and then I got a chance to do something in Africa. So
That's
I'm gonna
awesome.
get to do all that. I just didn't know how to do it. I just created the framework for it, and now the things are beginning to fall into place, right? And
Yeah.
so that's our work is creating the space, setting intention for what it is you want, and then who do I need to be in alignment with the intention that I set.
And that's where we are in terms of me and my love life. So I came to you, I came to you for support to help me figure out why I struggle
Hmm.
in my love relationships. And unbeknownst to me, you broke it down all the way down to my childhood.
Hmm.
And um, I'm still working through those things. In fact, you gave me homework assignment probably a month ago.
Yeah.
You gave me a homework assignment, and I still haven't mastered it. I still haven't because realize that it's greater than me,
Hmm.
and it is still some barriers or some bricks that are still built up in front of my heart based on some childhood
Hmm.
traumas that has happened. And so with that, and we want to stay on our topic, what are some things what's give them some examples of how you and I are working, or you are working with me to help me have the relationship, the loving, healthy relationship that I deserve.
Um, well, you deserve or not deserve is you saying it,
Right?
right? So we say we deserve something, but in the background, it's like I don't deserve it, right?
Yeah.
Right. So
Subconsciously.
subconsciously, so
Yeah.
12% of our thinking is conscious. That's us thinking right now,
Yeah.
right? What am I going to say? Do I agree with that? Do I not agree with that? Um, whatever internal argument we're having. But then as soon as like this is over, you're driving, thinking about something else, thinking about what you want to eat, thinking about how did that conversation go? You got all this stuff going on. So we're not really present in our life. We're always somewhere else. So we check in every now and then, right?
Yeah.
Like if you have an accident, you check in and you like present, and then you go off somewhere else, right? So um, so the thing is getting you one. Why do I want a relationship? And then what is the underlying thing about me? Am I not good enough? Am I not worthy? Am I going to be abandoned? Because if you've been abandoned, you're abandonment waiting to happen. So who do you find? You find men that are going to leave you. If you're afraid of being alone, what do you find? You find men that you could be in a relationship with, but they leave you. You have the experience of being lonely, right?
In the relationship.
In a relationship. So whoever you are, if that's the thing that's looking for a relationship, but it never occurs to us that that's what's looking for a relationship. But if you
Right.
listen to people, they'll tell you all the things they don't want. All the things they don't want are the things they're afraid of, and that's the thing that's looking for a relationship.
Yes.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right. Well, let me say this. That's the thing that's looking for the person. Right.
Yes.
But we don't work on people in a relationship. We work on the relationship itself. So if this is the kind of relationship I want, then who must I be to be in that kind of relationship? Like the field of dreams, build it and they will come. So let me focus on, okay, so I want to be in a relationship that has personal growth. I want to be in a relationship that has purpose. I want to be in a relationship that I think one of the things you said, like kindness or gentleness. Right? I want to have, okay, so if I have 5 things that are requirements. So when I say requirements, like things that are non-negotiable.
Yes.
Right? Like if that thing were to happen, it wouldn't be like, oh, well, we can work it out. We can talk about like, no, it's a wrap. It's done.
Yes.
It's like there is, or if I found this thing out about you when I met you, like I wouldn't even be in, I don't care if you have all the qualities I want. I would not be in that relationship with you because it's not in alignment with who I am.
Okay.
Right. So those are my requirements. Okay. So now if I'm requiring that for a relationship, then who do I need to be to match that requirement? Right. Then I start being that, but now I'm being that for my life.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm being that everywhere I go. So when I meet people in business, when I meet people, I'm going to always be in alignment with who I need to be for a relationship because everything is a relationship.
Right.
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 Our relationship to food, our body, our consciousness, all of that is a relationship.
Right.
Right.
Right. Right. So you had me do 25 things I require in a relationship. And I wrote down my 25, and every time I read them to you or show them to you, you just like, nope, 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 nope. So I'm really physically.
I didn't say no. What I ask you is if all the elements were there, like if the person was the body type you like, you know, so women be like, okay, you got to have a package like this. So he had the package you want. He could put it down the way you want. He had all those things, but this thing didn't exist or it existed.
Right.
Would you still be with them? Right. If you can negotiate that, then it's not a requirement.
Okay. And that's what I struggle with because I can't, none of them, all 25 of them to me are non-negotiable.
Because most of the things we want in relationships is what society told us we should want in a relationship.
Probably.
Right? Oh, you need to find a man that's going to take care of you. You need to find a man that's financially responsible. You need to find a man that's established. You need to find a man that, and so, find a man that's over 6 feet. Find a man that's, all of this stuff that, and the thing about beauty and the thing about relationships is it's all subjective and it moves with time. Right? So if you were looking to marry somebody during post World War II, you look for certain things, right? If you look at our generations, you can look at like post wars and look at how the fathers came back from those wars and either they were detached or they were like helicopter parents, and then the kids became the opposite of that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when you start to look at relationships, then relationships got defined by those generations as well. So then you start to look at, okay, now somebody's telling me what I should look for in a relationship, but that's not me creating it. It's the world telling me based on times. So, you go back many years ago, if you were voluptuous, you were considered
Wealthy.
wealthy, attractive,
Mm-hmm.
right? And now it's like, and then we went through that whole thing of being rail skinny, like
Mm-hmm.
rail thin. And
Mm-hmm.
then it came back, it starts to come back to like slim thick, or thick, because now it's because of social media. So you got all of these things, and so
Right.
we're chasing a moving target. But at the end of the day, a person can put on makeup, they can put on all this stuff to, they got padded bras, I mean padded draws
Bras.
now, right? So you
Yes.
got
For the
women that ain't
booties.
got no booty, but they got booty, right? So
Right.
and then what happens when she takes it off, right? Then does your identity go with that, right? So you
Does her? Yeah, I'm sure.
yes, so then the thing is whoever you're being is going to be what's going to attract people to you. And if you got paralyzed, if you had to have your breast removed, if a guy was couldn't perform in bed for some because he had some medical condition, the way of being is going to keep you connected,
Yeah.
not what they were doing, right? Not the things that they possessed, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
Not
you
the
could be
things.
wealthy today and then something could happen and
Be poor.
be poor tomorrow, right? And so who I was being that helped me get the money will help me get the money again, right? um and we could get it together, we could recreate that if who I'm being, and the way we're being is what's going to keep us together,
Mm-hmm.
right? But if things brought us together, as soon as we as soon as we lose the things, the relationship or everything that's built on top of
It's
it, it's
gone.
gone too.
Yeah. So for me, and I learned this during the book club, is that I tend to date men that were one older,
Hmm.
extremely older,
Hmm.
20 years older, and had to have more than me
Hmm.
financially, right?
Hmm.
Alpha guy, strong and hard.
Hmm.
And I know I attract that guy.
Hmm.
I could walk out the street and that guy is gonna pull over, and it's easy to, I know what to say, I know
Hmm.
how to relate, but I'm tired of that guy.
Hmm.
And so you had me like, I had to basically dig deep and be vulnerable enough to say, why? Why do you want a guy that's older? Is that because your dad wasn't there?
Hmm.
Why do you want a man that provide for you better than you could provide to yourself? Why? It's because you didn't feel the need to be able to
Hmm.
provide for yourself.
Hmm.
And so with that, learning all those things, it's like now I'm like trying to be, or not trying, I am working to, or have worked to be independent. So I don't
Hmm.
need to date a guy that is 20 years my senior. I can date my peer
Hmm.
and be okay with it, looking at him be like, oh yeah, your face is so young, but you're so cute, or not being afraid that he can't financially support me because he's younger. I don't know, I had these fears, like if I dated a guy that was my age, then maybe he couldn't take me on a date, or
Hmm.
maybe he was gonna have all these issues that a 40 something guy would have opposed to a 60-year-old guy.
So um when it comes to that, like, you date an older guy. So this is good that you're distinguishing in this, but you find a guy that's like your father, so you can beat the shit out of him, right?
Beat the shit
Because
out of him?
yeah, because not physically,
Okay.
right?
Emotionally?
Emotionally,
You
right?
know
Because
what?
you couldn't do it to your father, so you find a man that's that, and then you do it to him, right? Just like young
I
boys
can
that
see that.
find their mother, they find their mother in another woman, and they do to her what they couldn't do to their mother,
Mm,
right? And so, because there's a level of brokenness in all of us, right?
mm-hmm.
And so, but it's distinguishing that, right? Um, so then you find the older guy and you make him wrong in every turn. It's not the age of the guy, right? It's not what he has, it's what he represents, This is what people need to understand. It's what it represents, right? So when you find someone who abandons you, it's what it represents. Because I'm abandonment. Because if you love me, then you wouldn't leave me. But if the first relationship you had in your life left you, then why wouldn't everybody else leave you? Right? And so the work is getting back to what's at the source of my life, what's driving me, right? But all of that's in the unconscious. All of that's happening, so if I don't think I'm good enough, what am I going to do? I'm going to find people to validate that I'm not good enough, but I'm going to always try to be good enough.
But that's an oxymoron.
And that's how we live.
Yes.
Right? I want to find somebody that's not going to leave me. But who do I find? People that leave me.
So
and then when people don't leave me, I force them to leave. Me,
okay.
right?
So I could say that I'm abandoned. I was abandoned, right? But no one's ever abandoned. I've never been in a loving relationship with anybody left. I've left every romantic relationship. And so now I'm like, okay, why do I leave? And I go back to my first marriage. My son's father is like, okay, why did you leave? And it's like, I don't know. You know what I mean? It's like, so I leave, even if I'm dating somebody and it's like after 2 weeks and he says something or he's not gentle or he's not loving, I'm like, I'm out of here. And I see that it's a repetitive cycle and I don't know.
Because who's the people that when somebody leaves you, that leaves you what?
Hopeless.
Abandoned.
Abandoned.
Right.
Yeah.
And then when you're abandoned, you're what?
By yourself alone.
Alone.
Yeah.
Right. So your thing is, I don't want to be alone, but what do? You make yourself alone.
Yeah.
Yep. In relationship.
And out.
And out.
Yes.
Right.
Absolutely.
And so if they don't leave you, you leave them, and then guess what you get to be?
Alone.
Alone.
Which is what I don't want to be.
Yeah, but then but that's what you keep speaking to, and so you keep attracting people, or you keep pulling people to you that are going to leave you that way, so then you can be right about it.
Yes.
See, humans will rather be right than happy.
Than happy, yeah. Who, yes. Yes.
So if you're fighting for it, if you're fighting for that, you get to be right about it, but you don't get to be happy in it.
Yeah, and I've been right in my own way, but not happy. And that's because I have been trying to be right.
Yep, because it's not like being right about something. It's like being right about what you said about life. Life is so hard. So when life is easy, you make it hard.
Yeah.
Talking to people is really difficult. So when you find people that are easy to communicate with, you make a simple conversation difficult.
Yeah.
Right. So we have to pay attention to. That's why I said we can't give anybody anything. We all have the answers, right? So why can't I ask myself better questions? So it's not. Let me ask myself a better question, therefore I'd have a better answer. So one of the questions I would recommend that people ask themselves is, why did God make me so awesome? Why did God choose me to be the person who's going to transform the world? I tipped that. So why did God make me so awesome to transform the world, right? Why is the universe in alignment with me to become prosperous? Why is the universe in alignment with me to be desirable, right? Those are questions to ask yourself instead of getting up every day trying to, who I am is strong and powerful, and who I am is this, because your unconscious mind's like, no, you're not.
Okay, yeah.
No,
I get that. Yeah.
Right? You go, I am beautiful, and your unconscious like, no, it ain't, because you got to if you don't put all that stuff on, you ain't, right? Yeah. Or a guy's like, I'm confident, and then he got to stuff toilet paper in his pants to look like he got something, right? Like, what I'm saying? We do all kind of stupid stuff, but then you got to understand what's the comment that you're making to yourself internally, because we're talking to ourselves all the time. We have to pay attention to what we're saying because we're always listening, right? And so
speak on that. Speak on we're always listening. Like for someone that maybe don't understand that language, like what does that mean? So
when somebody says, well, dang, why does bad stuff happen to me? Because you always have bad stuff happen to you, because you're stupid, because you whatever. We haven't, like, if other people spoke to us the way we talk to ourselves, we'd be in jail for murder, right? We have terrible conversations with ourselves, but we're talking to ourselves all the time. Even when people were talking to us, we're talking to ourselves about what those people were talking about. And Do I have spinach in my teeth? Does he like me? Does she like me? Am I her type? Am I too dark? We got all this stuff going on when we're talking to people. Um, and so that's an ongoing conversation. Do they think one of three things that I give people. Ask yourself this question. Who am I that is the root question.
Who am I that?
Who am I that?
Okay.
Question number one is they are.
Okay.
Question number two, I am. Question number three, they are, I am. Right? Now, here's the thing. We have an interpretation of people before we even meet them, right? And when we do meet them, in our mind is they are this way, but they're no way.
Yeah.
They're only who we say they are. So now if I feel that they're this way, then I have to be some way to combat that, right? Then if I have to be this way, then I am that they are that I am some other way. So they're looking at me, I'm looking at them, that they're looking at me, that I'm some way. And so I'm trying to convince them that I'm not. All this is going on in the conversation. So we're never talking to the person we're actually talking to. We're talking to our ideal about that person. That person is talking to their ideal about us. Right?
So would you say that is our internal dialogue?
It's all internal.
And so we could stop our internal dialogue though at that moment.
But it's distinguishing that one, you have the internal dialogue going on.
Okay,
right?
Yeah.
And then what is that internal dialogue? Because it's all made up. There's nothing you could say the only thing that's true is the word of God. And the problem with that is everybody has their own interpretation of that
too.
Right? So then if you could just consider, just try on, not right or wrong, people can argue if they want to, but nothing is true. So if nothing is true, the whole world and life is a perspective. Right?
Yeah.
So, because if it was true, it'd be like gravity. Right? And so when we look at this is a belief that I have, but is that belief true?
Right.
Or is it a strong perspective?
Right? A lot of times it's a strong perspective.
Not a lot of times. It's always perspective.
It's not the belief. It's like sometimes it can have a little belief.
A belief is a perspective.
Yeah, that's true.
So, so I believe that I live in a country with borders, right? I believe that's a belief, that's a perspective, but really, like someone told us that the California borders Nevada and borders Arizona, right? Okay. But take away the borders, it's just America.
Right.
And then America wasn't even America until 1502. So before 1502, it wasn't America, right? So now we have a belief, we have a perception that this is America. Right. And then, if you go way back, thousands and thousands of years ago, it was all the continents were connected. Right. So, so there was something, then there wasn't something. So there's a perception of, right. So we're all living in perception. We're all living in a belief about something. So that's the thing that's driving us. And wherever you grew up, they have a belief in that community. They have a belief in this community. They have a belief in this community. And so we're operating off beliefs and perspectives as though they're the truth.
So with that, I think this will be a good place for us to stop and go to part 2.
Okay.
Because belief and perspective, I know for me, changed my life once I understood the two. So I want us to stop here, and then we'll go part 2, and we'll talk about belief and perspective, and then get into actually the conversation about the course coming up. And I don't want to end the conversation quickly. I really want us to be able to get something from it. I need to get something from this, and I believe my audience as well. So do you mind coming back for part 2 so we can continue the conversation?
Absolutely.
All right. Well, guys, give me a moment. We're going to come back with part 2 of The Power of Intention, the Love Edition. See you soon. Peace. Welcome to A Girlfriend's Guide to Life podcast. I'm your host, Miesha. We are coming back with part 2 of The Power of Intention Love Edition with Clyde Terry. Mr. Terry, let's wrap this up. So we left off talking about perspective and belief, and I think that is something that we could discuss real briefly about so people can understand the two. They're
Mhm.
different, but a lot of times we put them together, we merge them together. And I think we get caught up in life with not understanding. So talk to us really quickly about perspective versus belief.
So there's a saying that says environment trumps willpower on any given day,
Yeah.
right? So no matter how much a person wants to do something, if they're in an environment and that environment is draining, they're going to kind of take on that environment. So if I believe something, I'm now looking at the world through my belief,
Yeah.
right? It's all filtered through, through the filter of what I believe to be true or not true, or is or isn't. And so then my perspective on everything is going to be shaded through that, right?
Mhm.
And so it's a long conversation when you start talking about beliefs, because it's giving people examples. So it will be something that we probably tap into another time.
Okay.
But it's one of the things that we do talk about in the course is what's shaping your belief and what's shaping um, how you go after things in life, right? So you can say I'm positive, you can say I'm positive, I'm strong, you could say all of this stuff, but what's happening underneath? And then that's going to drive whatever's happening underneath is going to drive how I pursue things,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
And so that's what we begin to look at. What beliefs do you have that's driving you to something? Because we'd have to go in and have you reprogram your belief for you to actually now take the actions that are consistent with this new thing you want to fulfill on.
Boom. Boom, boom, boom. That's good. So there's a course coming up. I will be participating in the course. Can you talk to us about the course, the date it starts, the time, and what it looks like?
So the next course is called Journey to Excellence, and we look at how you function, how you operate inside of the world, the transactional world. Then we look at get clarity, like what is it that I want? Why do I want it? What are the things I need to detox from? What's the language that I say to myself, so I can start to pay attention to the way I communicate with myself. So we go through a whole litany of that. We go through clarity, then getting clear. Then we look at creating practices. And by the time the program's over, so you'll get a coaching call with me, and you'll get a coaching call with one of the other coaches, Trayvon Edwards. And so what we look at is we create by the end of the program, you create an action plan for yourself so that you can go out and fulfill on what's important to you. But we have to figure out what's important to you first. And then we help you create the way of being that you need to be consistent with that. And everybody that's gone through the program has produced results. Everybody that's gone through the program has produced results.
How long is the course, and when does the course start?
It's going to be 6 weeks. We have an orientation coming up July 11th.
Okay.
So anybody can tap into the orientation. Even the orientation, you're going to walk away with some jewels, right? And then you get to choose from there whether you want to do it or not. And I can say this: if you're willing to transform the areas of your life around health, happiness, and prosperity, take the course. And I'll also say this is the worst thing in the world you could do.
Because you're about to dig deep.
Right?
So how can they sign up? So how, if they're interested, how would one sign up for this course?
So I would tell them to reach out to you, and then so it's more concise. Have them reach out to you via your website or your email, and then you can get that to us, and we can reach out to them. One of the things that I find is when people don't pay, they don't pay attention. Right.
Yeah,
so
right.
The course is relatively cheap. It's $297 for what you're going to get from it. Well underpriced. But we're going to do it in a Facebook, in a private. So you need to have a Facebook page, because we're going to put the assignments as a private group, so nobody can access the group. But we're going to put the assignments in every day. Every day you will have an assignment. And the power of the assignment is not something to do, but it's you looking through the lens of your life on a daily, and you get to see your life.
That's exciting.
As it unfolds, and you can be like, oh, wow, I never saw that. If you look at it as something to do, then it'll be like something else added onto your plate. But if you're looking through your life and you see how you transact, how you move in the world, when you want to partner, when you want to make money, when you do all these things, you can start to see like, wow, this is what I do every day, and this is why I'm not winning. Right?
Awesome. Yeah. And my last little question. So you didn't tell me that you wrote a book, and you have a book coming up. So tell us the name of the book and when the release date.
The release date is kind of up in the air.
Okay.
The book is called Complexity. So during COVID, I had friends that are Republicans, I got friends that are Democrats. I'm an independent, right?
Okay.
So I don't necessarily. I'm conservative about some things. I'm super liberal about some things, and then there's some things I just don't care about one way or another. But it impacts people that I know, so I'll reach out to those people that I know and go, "Hey, how do you feel about this?" Right?
Okay.
And then I'll vote accordingly. And so the book is called Complexity. Um, um, Politics, race, and justice in America, right?
Awesome.
So when you look at, they go, well, they did this over here, but they didn't do this over here. Well, you can't judge, what happens in the justice system, law enforcement, and all that happens in Alabama to something that happens in Los Angeles, right?
Right.
You're talking about different individuals. You're talking about different mindsets. You're talking about different conditions. So it's a lot more complex when you look at. Even when you look at Roe versus Wade right now, there's people have arguments about that. It's more complex than an opinion,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because there's a lot of factors that go into it. A 10-year-old girl got raped by somebody, and then, and they're arguing about the abortion thing, right?
Right.
Well, you can't be like, I'm pro life, and but this has just happened, right?
Right.
So life is a lot more complex. Life is really simple, but we make it complex,
Right.
and then it becomes more complex. So I thought of a series called Complexity because everything has its complexity. Relationships, politics, all of it has its
Sounds
complexity.
like I'm gonna bring you back,
Mhm,
and then we could talk about the book in itself.
mhm.
We are running out of time. I enjoyed my conversation with you. I
Mhm.
appreciate you coming. Guys, if you are interested, or girls, queens, kings, if you're interested in transforming your life and you really want to move some things out of your life and really live the life that God called you to live, then I charge you with looking into taking the course with me. I'm taking it. I want to be in a loving relationship, and so I'm doing that for myself. It's my birthday gift, actually. But before we go, I have to thank my girls and my boys that are emancipated, that are in the foster care system. I see you. I hear you. I'm fighting with you. We are in this together. I love you. If you want to find me on YouTube, Girlfriend's Guide to Life. You can also find me on Instagram, Girlfriend's Guide to Life, spelled Lyfe. If you need my email address, DM me, and then I'll give you all the information. DM me on Instagram, and I will give you the information for Mr. Terry's course. I love you guys. Thank you for joining me again on season 3 of A Girlfriend's Guide to Life. I will see you soon. Peace and blessings, guys. Love you.